Hello, this is Dr. Nazare coming to you again with some ideas as well as some answers. I recently have been asking you to put questions and comments at the end of the videos, and I'm very glad that some of you have done it. Please do so. And from now on, I will be looking at those comments and those questions. So today, I'm going to start by answering some of those questions from the last couple of episodes. So I have some questions from the episode on self-other configuration, and I'll be answering questions about that. And I also have a question about the episode on repair, and so I'll bring that up and I make it public, the question, so that I can answer it to the person who asked, but also to the rest of you who might have similar questions. So the first one is on the issue of repair. So on the episode about repair, I gave different stages of repair that are necessary, or factors rather than stages, factors that allow repair to happen and to be constructive and healing. And just to recap what that was that number one, people ought to try and talk to the person directly first. That it's very important that when you talk to somebody about something that has injured you or caused you trauma, whatever it might be, obviously trauma being more repetition of that injury or more severe of an injury, but nonetheless an injury in both cases, that the first thing you want to do is talk to that person directly, and that you do that constructively. If you don't do it constructively, you can't expect repair. So the constructively means that you don't go to the person angry or blaming. So if you go to people angry or blaming, that's not a very vulnerable place. It's a very non-vulnerable place. It's kind of an attack. And people don't respond well to that because people already have difficulty hearing that they've caused any injury or harm. Most people have difficulty with that. Most of us, if we're not sociopaths, we don't want to injure people. We do injure people nonetheless, but we don't mean to. So we don't like hearing that we've injured. So number one, try to talk to the person constructively, meaning no anger or blaming. And if that doesn't work, then going to get a therapy to help you with that. Then you have to look for specific conditions. So number one, you're going to do whatever you did on your own. You're going to try again to tell the person what it is that injured you in a way that is non-blaming and not angry, but rather very much of a self-statement. Like, when this happened, or when you did this, or when you didn't do this, it caused me this distress, this pain, this hurt, whatever it might be, right? So that's number one. And then number two is that you're going to ask the person, if it's somebody in your life that's very important, like a sibling or a best friend or your parents, you're going to ask the person to come up with a plan if these types of things happen again, because typically where we injure people are, personality traits or ways of behaving that we're not very aware of, and so we tend to repeat it. So to make a plan that if it happens again, the two of you have a plan of what can be said to let the person know to stop doing whatever they're doing, or to bring it back and basically apologize and try again. And number three was that in full repair, in the end, when we've received the proper care, regret, and responsibility from that other person, where they really show you remorse or regret, and they are sorry, so they apologize in one way or another. The last part is where you actually get curious. If you really want in repair, you're going to end up being curious about what were the circumstances of this friend or this parent. Obviously, more severe injuries happen in childhood because we're so vulnerable. So what is it that was happening in that person's life that led them to treat you in this way or to neglect you in this way? So that was that episode. So I have a person who asked after the episode, what happens if you do it constructively? In other words, if you don't do it angrily or blaming, and after you do that, they still don't respond to you with repair, or with apology, or with regret. So in relation to that question, it made me aware that I didn't share with you something that is important to know, which is that not everybody is able to repair. And there's a spectrum of possibilities of how people respond, again, constructively, meaning that you have done your job by not presenting angry or blaming, right? So that's a sine qua non. That's essential. So the people that are going to be repairing, they fall in the spectrum from one extreme to another. So in one extreme are the people who never take responsibility. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else's. And they basically present in life as victims because it's never them, it's always the other. And those are people who tend to not take responsibility, and sometimes they even have difficulty apologizing ever. So that's on one side of the spectrum, the people who have difficulty recognizing that they impact others and taking responsibility for the impact on others. That's on one side. Those people have difficulty repairing. Why? Because they're not able to see the impact. They don't want to see the impact. They don't want to recognize that they had an impact on another, much less a negative impact. So that's on this side. On the other side are the people who actually are very willing to look at themselves, but they feel really horrible about anything they've done that is negative or has had a negative impact. So that's on the other side of the spectrum, people who feel just horrific about the idea of having had negative impact, and they're very emotional about it. And so those kind of people may basically collapse under the pressure of hearing that they've impacted somebody. They may cry. They may over apologize and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, and in a big way, like crying and just clearly feeling horrible. And those people are not able to repair either because they feel so collapsed, so under the weight of having done something that injured, that you end up needing to help them because they feel so bad. So you don't feel like they can really attend to you because they're overwhelmed with their own feelings. So these people over here are much nicer, by the way, but nonetheless, they cannot offer repair, because repair means that they're focused on you. They're focused on your experience first and foremost, and that they're able to show emotion, but not overwhelming emotion in themselves, but emotion toward the you that was injured, right? So on those two sides, if you are dealing with a person that falls under one category or the other, it is imperative that you prepare their repair, that you talk to them and tell them that you're going to tell them something and what you would need from them, guide them, because they may not have ever heard of what to do with that circumstance. But I do want you to lower your expectations, in particular with the extreme on the right, the ones that don't take responsibility, the ones that present in the world very much like victims. Clearly, if you're not responsible for anything, there is like you're a victim, right? So you can look at that person and see, do they fall under that category? In that case, you're going to tell them that hard as it is for them to take responsibility, that you really would want for them to look at themselves and to know that you care about them and they matter to you. This is why you want repair, but that you really need them to look at their contribution. You can use the word contribution rather than blame, because in reality, that's what we all do. We contribute, right? We don't have the whole power, any of us. So to that question, make sure that you do it constructively and make sure that you prepare the person, and don't have unrealistic expectations. If you're dealing with somebody who's always looking outside for the problem that is not them, or you're looking at somebody who you cannot tell them anything negative because they fall prey to horrible feelings of that they're bad and that they've done a horrible thing. It's like an exaggerated version on the other side. If you're dealing with somebody like that, then you may want to reconsider how you're going to talk to them, because they may not be viable people to repair for you. But you can guide them by telling them, this is what I need from you, this is what I would want, and you can give it a try. But don't have very high expectations. So that was one question. The next question that I got had to do with self-other, a different episode, the self-other configuration. And the question was, are these self-other configurations fixed? In other words, is this something that you organize? This is not how the person put it, but I'm telling you that it's organized in childhood, as in response to how you organize people growing up. That has to do with your childhood experience. And is that something that changes over time, or is it fixed? That was the question. So the reality is that that's pretty fixed, unless you go into intensive therapy with somebody, a very good therapist that's able to understand this and work with this, because these are unconscious processes. So needless to say, when the process is unconscious, we can't really intervene on them. So the first order of business is to make the person conscious that this is how they're organized in the world, and to have them come to see that this is typically what happens to them. So it is fixed unless there's intervention, is the right answer. And intervention means psychological intervention to make the person first aware, and then the person has to be interested and willing to make changes to change that fixed kind of view of self and other. The other question that I had regarding the self-other was a very good question. They're all good questions, but this one really caught my attention because she said, why is it that if the others, you're saying that the bad is the worst one. And this connects to the criticism club. Remember, I was talking about the criticism club, the kind of person that takes almost any comment as a judgment or a criticism. She must belong to that club, because when she heard this is the worst, she felt criticized already. Like, oh my God, I'm bad, right? But I was saying that it's the worst not as a criticism at all, but full of care and compassion, because actually, when you have that organization of self bad and other bad, I say it's the worst because you suffer a lot. You suffer a lot because you see people as coming to hurt you and prone to hurt you and prone to do damage to you. And that's obviously a very bad way to live in the world. Basically, you're paranoid. You don't trust other people. You think they're bad, or, more often than not. And it's also very bad because you feel that you're bad. So I was saying this is the worst, and I want to clarify, and I'm so glad that this person asked the question, because I don't mean it's the worst because you're bad. I mean it's the worst because you suffer the most. So those are the two questions that I wanted to talk about today. And on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the difference between being jealous and being envious. And most people that I talk to do not know the difference between the two and use it as if it's the same thing, but it's actually very different emotions and with very different motivations. So I just upcoming event, the next time I will talk about the difference between jealousy and envy. And for now, thank you so much for watching. Please spread this episode to other people and other episodes if you find them helpful. And please subscribe, as well as give it a hands up if you like it, so that more people can benefit from this information that I hope is helping you. Until the next time, bye-bye.